Thank you very much. We're very excited about what we have to talk to you this year. We have a lot of information, and I think, as I said in the presentation, welcome to the 5G age. We're getting out of this time in between Gs and entering the beginning of the 5G. We have a lot of work ahead of us, but it is one of the most exciting opportunities we ever had in the mobile industry. So there is no question about it of the digital transformation that we all have helped enable in the industry with the smartphone. The way to think about it is the digital economy actually started with the PC, but it really came to age with the smartphone. There's 7.5 billion mobile connections in the industry today. It is the largest platform ever created by mankind. And there is no question that it's already changing everything. You know, I have a statement that I use, which is you're going to find very difficult to find a single industry that doesn't have a smartphone in the middle of, you know, their network or their interactions with their customer, whether it's B2B, it's business to consumer. So it is changing everything about companies, about companies, about social, but it is going to impact even more. So as we get this scale of mobile technology and we take it around everything else and we make other devices connected and intelligent, we will see a significant expansion in an order of magnitude increase in the number of mobile connections. That's why I think we have been talking about 25 billion connected devices by 2020. And when we think about 5G, that's where this is going to come to the whole next level. 5G, we had a study that was commissioned, and I think was mentioned that before, it's about 12 trillion in goods and services by 2035. So 5G is going to be one of the most significant transitions that we'll have in our industry, and I will come and repeat, I think, what we said, you know, back in CES, which is it's going to be like electricity. We're not going to have a discussion anymore about, you know, in a few years about the use case. We're just going to assume it's there because everything will be connected to the cloud, and that's a very exciting time for us in the industry. And with that, it comes the need for bandwidth. So there is an explosive growth in data. From 2014 to 2020, the growth rate is about 30x. That will require new technologies, require a new spectrum. I have this discussion with regulators, and I joke and say resistance is futile. Everything got allocated to mobile because last mile is wireless, and we're going to need more spectrum, and we're going to need more technologies because consumers want data. And I think recently we had done a study in a white paper with Nokia, which showed that 50% of consumers would buy a 5G phone, and that is the most important feature they would like to pay for if it actually solves the access to, you know, very high speed and unlimited data. I don't think I know anybody that will say, you know, I don't want to have more data. So this is going to be both the opportunity and the challenge that we're going to have in our industry, but I think we together, we can make this happen and develop the technology, build the networks, and build, you know, those services to the users. And speaking of that, I think we have been hard at work, working with many of our operator and infrastructure vendors and some of the leading OEMs to accelerate the timeline. And we had announced our first 5G chipset, the X50, Qualcomm Snapdragon 5G modem. And one of the interesting things is we have a record time. We have from announcement to functional silicon. And we actually announced the very first 5G data connection. Actually, you know, it's interesting. There's a lot of those shows that people will have a chipset. Our engineers make it so small, it's probably hard to show. but I have it. But you know, the interesting thing is I have to keep it with me. There's a lot of people asking for samples. We're going to have samples soon. I cannot give you this one, but I'm telling you, it's exciting to see a new generation of wireless technology coming. And with that, we want to show a video about our first data call. So this is super exciting. I think if you remember what happened with 3G and 4G, I think when you achieve, on a functional silicon, the first data call, I think it's at the first milestone to make it a reality. We moved past the PowerPoint. I think we have, already a working silicon, and we feel very confident that by 2019, we can make 5G, new radio a reality. So, throughout the presentation today, we'll talk to you about the multiple steps to get there. But when you think about the timeline, I think the industry is working with an accelerated timeline for 5G in our standard at 3GPP. Then we're going to move to interoperability testing in trials. We have announced a number of trials and IoT schedules with all of the leading infrastructure vendors and the operators. And then we're going to go to a standard compliant 5G product in early 2019. And to talk about that and the readiness of the ecosystem, I'd like to welcome, my friend Luca Orsini from Ericsson, who will talk a little bit about the readiness of the ecosystem with you. Thank you, Luca.
So yes, it's a very defining moment in the industry, so I think it's a pleasure to stand here and give a little bit of an overview of where we are at. So 5G deployment and development is being fueled by the definition of new and very diverse use cases that today they are clustered around the three main 5G service areas, being enhanced mobile broadband, massive machine type communication, and critical machine type communication. By picking and combining those use cases, both new and existing, we will see a drastic acceleration in the socio-economic development, as well as increase in productivity and sustainability. But there is one thing in common for all of those use cases, and this is basically the need for a very reliable wireless connectivity. And as you know, this is something that Ericsson takes very, very seriously. I would say that it's also worth to mention that to see the business and technology transformation that 5G will lead to, we don't need to wait for 2020 when networks are fully deployed and also the standard is closed. We can actually start now by introducing some of what we Ericsson call 5G plugins that would be, for example, vRAN, massive MIMO, low latency, actually today, in today's network. The last thing to mention is that the very important role that the 3GPP and standardization effort play today, and is an effort led by the cooperation of many industry players, Ericsson and Qualcomm, for example. To provide connectivity to a very wide range of use cases that are all different in terms of specification and requirements, but also to equip the network with capability to fulfill any type of future demand. It is very important that 5G NR will extend capability of current network to the next level, far beyond the one of existing standards. So 5G NR will give a massive system capacity and very high speed to the entire network. Very high reliability and availability, low latency, but also the ability to connect very diverse portfolio of devices. And the innovation here does stand behind a new radio interface but it's also about the introduction of a next generation 5G core that will operate in a completely different business environment. The 5G network will be designed to accommodate existing operating model, the one that is adopted today by service provider and operator, but will also accommodate different needs, like, for example, infrastructure sharing, and, for example, the ability to run simultaneously very diverse industry-specific use cases by a wide adoption of technology like network slicing, NFV, and SDN. Looking a little bit at the band, there is a very strong push to introduce now 5G in mid and high band, being the millimeter waves group, but there is also a growing interest in refarming some of the spectrum below, in the what's called low band. Of course, we as an infrastructure vendor, we will develop a portfolio to accomplish all type of demands in all bands. But actually, we see that the millimeter wave will play a major role in expanding the bit pipe and also to provide efficient capacity offloads, while the mid and low band will basically extend 5G NR coverage and also the benefit of improvements in terms of reliability and latency to the entire network. So, every country and regulator is working very hard now to make sure that those bands are released. And if I can, I don't have time to go into detail country by country, but from an helicopter view, we see that in the low band there is a very strong interest in 600, 700 range, 3.3 to 3.5, 3.7, and then 4.4 to 4.8 in the mid band, and then 28, 30, 40 in the high band. So there is more to come. But definitely frequency will be available in the right time. If you look now in the different deployment strategies that are available, there are mainly two tracks. One is called non-standalone, and is basically the interoperability and tight interworking with existing 4G network, very important, and also the reuse on existing 4G core network by simply software upgrade. The second track is standalone, is built on a totally extensive NR coverage and the introduction of the next generation 5G core. Both tracks are relevant from operator and is basically depending on parameters like, for example, 4G network performance and maturity, availability of spectrum, where in the band, market positioning, intended market positioning for the initial 5G launch, but also CapEx profile, how much to invest up front, how much to leverage on existing investments, and finally also the reliability and sustainability of the current vendor base. Lead operator are trialing and poking both of them, and we are supporting, of course, a global player with our end-to-end 5G system capability, radio core, and devices. When it comes to commercialization, what we see at this stage is that we will start with NSA. It's a bit simpler to put out in the market with, let's say, around first part of 2019. But from the second part of 2019, the beginning of 2020, we see a total convergence of the two tracks. There will be one 5G system, fully TGPP compliant, that is capable both of LTE interworking as well as standalone operation. Concluding my presentation and leaving you for a few key takeaways, I think there is an immense opportunity in the service space and business development for operator industry players by adopting some of the use cases and implementing this 5G service. Ericsson is working horizontally to develop this technology, but also to work together with global players and industry players to make sure that there are attractive use cases that can be monetized on. Don't wait what is coming next, but start introducing some of the so-called 5G plugins in existing network to benefit from 5G innovation, but also to start this business and technology transformation that will come soon. And then I think the last part is let's reinforce this collaboration among all the different industry players. I'm proud to say what we've done together with Qualcomm. We have done a lot of the work first. I was extremely proud in this LA and LAT 1 gigabit per second demonstration, and I think the collaboration going forward is going to be even more important to make sure that 5G comes out timely in the market, but is also a strong adherence to 3GPP standardization. So, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I just want to repeat, we will be ready 2019, I think we can make this happen, and that will be the beginning of the transformation. And in this process, we are starting with a number of trials, and those are some of the announced, trials in joint, development activities, and we're starting now in the second half of 2017. And we have, a prototype, system that is actually allow trials in testing in both the sub-6 and millimeter wave as we get ready for this timeline, aggressive, but possible timeline for 5G leadership in 2019. So now I have a surprise for you. I think it is not in the regular programming, but we have a special guest that I would like to invite on the stage. This is from a company that has been one of the oldest and longest Qualcomm partners in the wireless industry. So I'd like to welcome to stage to talk about 5G and R, the Senior Vice President of Verizon, Atish Goudet. Please support. Atish, thank you very much for being here at stage with us. I say internally to Qualcomm, between Qualcomm and Verizon, nothing can separate us. Is that true?
That's absolutely true. We have a long history of partnership.
Okay, so maybe we'll start by asking a question. Can you talk to us a little bit about the 5G new radio plan for Verizon?
Yeah, so, as Cristiano, you mentioned that we have a tremendous excitement around 5G, and today we made a great announcement. It's our commitment to driving the 5G ecosystem. As I mentioned, we have a great history of partnership, specifically with Qualcomm and ecosystem partners like Novatel. We have a commitment to really drive with you accelerated field trials and accelerated commercial launch, and that just shows our commitment to 5G NR millimeter wave. So we're very excited about this development.
Look, one of the things I wanted to ask you is, from an operator perspective, I know it's early stage of the technology, and I think we always go through this, but from, a Verizon standpoint, how do you think about, 5G can actually change, and create new opportunities for the operator community?
Yeah, this is, first of all, we think 5G is going to be a game changer, not only for us, but for the industry. It will unleash a whole host of innovation, just like the Gs that came before it. But this is very different. I think this will unleash a tremendous amount of innovation, leveraging gigabit level bandwidth, low latency services, and I can go through a whole series of services, and I think Luca did a good job with his slide. But the things that we're most excited about is high-def video. We think will unleash an entirely new level of viewing content. And as you know, video drives a tremendous amount of viewership on our networks. AR, VR is another thing. And then cloud computing is another general area. But we think all of these drive not only new revenue for us in the industry in fixed, but also mobile services, and we're very excited about that.
Thank you very much. Maybe one comment I want to make, Atish, is one of the fundamental, I think, advantages of new 5G technology, we get the very low latency, 1 millisecond latency, multiple gigabits. So this concept of being cloud connected and have all your data in the cloud, we actually take this to a whole new level. Having this 1 millisecond, there is no boundary anymore for you to have everything in the cloud. For enterprises, there is no more concept about the intranet and the extranet, and operators, actually, because they have a trusted network, actually could be an extension for corporations of the internet throughout the wide area. And I think one of the things that you mentioned, which actually resonate well with us, which is there are going to be new use cases, and the very first one is going to be the transformation in broadcasting. We already see that with gigabit LTE and high-speed LTE, the streaming of video, and I think 5G will take it to the whole new era. We are cooperating with Verizon. We had a joint announcement, as Atish said, for fixed wireless, and we're looking forward to working with Verizon to launch 5G NR. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you, Atish. So now we're going to talk for another fun thing in the industry. So, I always like to tell the story when you go back to 3G. Coming with the beginning, I think we were started 3G with, with CDMA technology, with CDMA 2000. And then as we start working towards WCDMA, one of the interesting things about WCDMA is it was something called the core band, 2.1 with a core band. We all going to come together and have a harmonized band, and that we could have 3G, everywhere in that band. When 4G came, we're now up to 65 bands. So we had to throw the harmonization, book out and just accept that, wireless growth is significant and we need more and more spectrum because the decision is already made by the consumer. The last mile data is going to be wireless, and the devices that we all carry and the other devices, they're going to all be connected. That's how they're going to access to the internet. And therefore, we have to deal with band complexity. We actually like that challenge at Qualcomm because what it does, it allows us to basically push the boundaries of technology to know how we can actually maintain this great economies of scale that we have with 5G, but also continue to add complexity in the bands within the constraints of the mobile form factor, the mobile battery life, the mobile thermal management. So, I wanted to give you an idea when we think about complexity. So when we start with early 4G, we had about 16 different bands. And if you want to build a global device, you have to worry about 16 different bands. Then, as we started to expand and go into combinations and carrier aggregation and LTE advanced, we started to ramp, and that grew to 49. And now, there's 49 bands because different operators have different spectrum. You started to have combination, and we're dealing with about 1,000 combinations of bands for carrier aggregation. When we go to 5G, that's going to go to 10,000. But that, that is a challenge that I think working together we'll be able to overcome, and we're going to make that an advantage. And I think that's why we have been investing, going from digital all the way to the antenna, so we can design the front end of the device as a system, and basically abstract from the industry this complexity of those bands, and we actually can quickly drive scale on 5G as we're able to do with 4G. And then that is going to get to the question, is can you get 5G NR in a smartphone? There's a lot of skepticism in the industry. I won't name the skeptics, but there are some skeptics. We're saying it's not possible with 5G new radio technology to get to a smartphone form factor, and it's not possible to get that solved by 2019. So we accept that challenge. And one of the things we had announced at the Mobile World Congress America, and I have here to show you. This is the Qualcomm 5G new radio reference design. That's the one that we use with all of our partners on the infrastructure and with the OEM device industry to develop technology and test it. And this is a smartphone form factor. And this device will have, it started with millimeter wave, and then we'll have millimeter wave in sub-6 plus advanced 4G with a number of different band combinations, and we'll be able to take it to the field, in 2018. So we are working hard, and we had solved, or in the process of working with our ecosystem to solve the 5G and our problems, and make it an opportunity for our industry, including the ability to have millimeter wave, into a smartphone form factor. And I think that's the reference design, and I'm happy to talk about that because we had the first beginning, we talked about the chip. And the first thing we need to do, you need to get a chip, and you have to start bringing up the chip. We're moving to the next phase. And with that, I want to invite to stage our partner, Sony, Mr. Kazuo Murata. They'll talk to you a little bit more about how we can make this happen. Thank you, Murata-san. Thank you so much.
Yeah, first of all, thank you very much for giving me opportunity to explain about our 5G challenges. Actually, I haven't seen that, like a phone yet. Actually, that's really want to see it. But anyway, we try to explain about, the challenges. But before 5G challenges, let me try to explain about our gigabit history. So this is history. For the example, in our European market, we are started utilizing a 4x4 MIMO prototype. This is not commercial yet. Then also we successfully announced the 1 gigabit, first 1 gigabit phone in the Mobile World Congress, and also the Cristiano coming. Thank you very much for coming to our stage. And also the 5G commercialization that happened in the first half of 2017. So as we really want to try to continuously challenging for the 4G and also as well as the 5G. Okay, and next the 5G challenges. And if ask me what is the most biggest challenge for the 5G, that is the a millimeter wave. Of course, like a regular battery life, size, like a thermal solutions, so everything there. But I think a millimeter wave is the biggest challenge for us. But this is, a biggest challenge, but it is very important and also the necessary challenge for us. And but this is reality. So as Christian also explained. So we have the current LTE smartphone there. We have many antennas and like a GSM, WCDMA, LTE and band combination, and request more and more for the carrier aggregation combination. That is the reality. And based on that, and look at the 5G millimeter wave antenna. This is very simplified, antenna structure. So we think this required antenna array for the millimeter wave to get the gain. And also this is our experiment result. If people holding by hand, so degradation is quite big. So that's why we think at least more than multiple number of the antenna is required. So that means anyway required a small size and low power, high efficiency kind of antenna system for the 5G millimeter wave is necessary. So we are really expecting a Qualcomm team to prepare that solutions from the platform perspective. Of course, our side we need to take care of the material for the mechanics to avoid those kind of interference or the loss for the millimeter wave. That's our big challenges. And look at the Sony group and the 5G opportunities. So this is the focus for the product group. Of course, we have a content services and also a semiconductor team and other team is there, but I try to focus for the product group first. So I'm coming from the Sony Mobile Communications, and of course, challenge for those kind of devices. So we try to do those kind of implemented 5G and also to get the core technology, and we want to expand into other business group. But this is opportunity, not meaning tomorrow we will get 5G headphone. That is not meaning like that. And also not only product embedded in things. They have a lot of service there. So not only for product embedding, but also the implementing, also the utilizing 5G technology into their service. That is, I think, a lot of opportunity. I'm start to getting a lot of questions from the other group. So how can we utilize the 5G for the next step? And this is the current business. But next, this is recently, Sony announced and to establish new a business group and the AI robotics. So these are two products. Actually, this is very old products. So for example, Ivo, which is a pet dog type of the product, which is actually launched in the 2005, and also the Curio, which is a prototype, even prototype, not a product. So we cannot buy these things. So this is kind of a conceptual thing, and actually major difference is compared to that era, definitely a process speed and also the network capability or performance. They have a connectivity and processor and AI there. However, performance is totally different, and so that's implement 5G and also the current AI and also the processor speed. That actually make it totally different. That's actually the big expectations. That's not the reality yet, but I think I'm really expecting to have the big opportunity to 5G in the entire Sony group. That is my last message. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much. This is the device, but I was told limited samples right now.
Okay.
Actually, I was informed I have to return the chip and the device back to the lab. Okay, so now we're going to talk about how we should be thinking of the 5G new radio network. And there is important elements of 5G new radio that I would like to share with you, that it's probably easier if I describe with a network diagram. So we spend the past decade, probably, I think I'll say almost a decade now, building together LTE networks. And the LTE, which we continue to invest, will be the foundation of the 5G new radio network. One good way to describe it is what happened when we introduced 3G and on top of 2G, and that there was a role that GSM or CDMA 2000 played. And then we introduced 4G on top of the 3G, but now it is even more important. So LTE will provide that ubiquitous data. It's going to be, initially the platform for voice. That's why I think the carrier transition to VoLTE is very important. And then we'll provide a seamless transition of service with two fundamental upgrades. The upgrade that we're starting to see right now to gigabit LTE and gigabit capabilities in the LTE network, but also the upgrade to ultra-low latency, so that you're actually going to have a seamless transition of services that you start to build on 5G new radio that has higher speed and lower latency, and you can transition that to the 4G network. And it also will enable an early development of the devices and the use cases. So LTE is here to stay, but LTE goes to an upgrade to gigabit LTE and later low latency, and I'll talk about that, I think, later today. On top of the network, you start to build your 5G new radio. And this is where I think there is an important data point, which is often misunderstood in the industry. This is not about a choice of sub-6 or millimeter wave. It's actually about both. And I'll explain to you how we should think about it. As you go to your macro or picocells or mini cells, and you start deploying the sub-6, you start to create a network that will give you now multiple units of gigabit. But then on top of that, you start building a more dense network with a millimeter wave. And that will give you multiple tens of gigabit. And I'll give you an interesting data point. I actually have been discussing with some of my colleagues from the operator community. As we started to get data and go to the field, we have a few markets. So we actually did tests in the United States in a few locations. We had done in other markets. We did in Mexico, and we did some markets in Europe, and we run some simulation data. If you go to dense networks today, dense 4G networks today, and you go to dense locations, and you start to add 5G new radio millimeter wave, you're starting to see coverage in the 70 or 80%, depending on the network, depending on the market, depending on the density, but you start to see 70 to 80%. So what it does, actually, the millimeter wave base station starts to take traffic away, and particularly in outdoor location. I refer to 70 to 80% outdoor. Try to take outdoor traffic, and it starts to free up capacity on both the sub-6 and the LTE network, where you need broader coverage, including indoor. And then over time, you started to think about how you think of network that already exists today, which is some of the access point, and you started to bring more millimeter wave, and then you started to go indoor as well. So that is the network architecture of the future, and that's why we see an effort to bring both of those technologies available day one. And that's why Qualcomm has been trying to solve with our partners many of those challenges to get into the smartphone, because the use of those two spectrum bands is what's going to make the full capability of 5G technology, available in the networks. And I think with that understanding, we get started thinking about gigabit LTE. So gigabit LTE has it's an interesting upgrade for LTE. It's about 7x. A gigabit LTE network's about 7x the speed of the average home Wi-Fi. But don't worry, we're going to improve the performance of Wi-Fi as well. We're going to talk about that later. But you actually get much faster connections in congested areas. You get more data. You have a more efficient use of the radio resources. It actually has an economic benefit as you start thinking about a return of unlimited data, because the faster speeds will basically have a more efficient use of radio resources. And we started to make that a reality. So there are now about 39 operators that have announced, deployed, or planning to deploy gigabit LTE. I want to actually call somebody. I want to call Mike Wright from Telstra, who's here in the audience. This is our partner in crime that did our very first, in February 2016, I think, we announced the X16 modem, and in 2017 we launched the first gigabit LTE network that was Telstra. Thank you, Telstra, for your leadership. Thank you, Mike. So now there are 39 operators, 24 countries, and over 1.2 billion LTE connections, upgrading to gigabit LTE. And we are going on our second generation product with the X20 modem. It was just a coincidence, but it's 1.2 gigabits per second. And I think this is important because every operator that is on the path to build, a very competitive and successful 5G new radio technology, it starts with an upgrade on the LTE network. So, and we have that a reality that consumers can buy today. There are over 10 devices now announced in the marketplace that has gigabit LTE. And that's where you actually think about the transition of data to the cloud at a whole new level. Because most of the users, start thinking about having unlimited storage when you have a high-speed connection for photos, for videos, for music, and for your documents. And that's important because that's one of the key elements of the transformation that 5G will bring, which is connected to the cloud 100% of the time. So I just want to say thank you for all of our partners that embrace the leadership, that build the devices, and get those devices in the hands of consumers. Thank you very much. So now we're going to move from smartphones to the transformation of mobile to other industries. So, as I said in the very beginning of this presentation, the digital transformation created by a smartphone is tremendous, but also the scale of the platform. And as you would expect, that's starting to change many industries around it. That's one of the things that we have done at Qualcomm, expanding our business, leveraging mobile technology, and going to other markets. And I highlight 4 of those markets that we'll talk about today. One is the automotive, that we have a significant transformation. It's easy to understand that the automotive is inherent mobile, but the automotive actually is one of the industry that we're going to be more disrupt and transformed by mobile, by connectivity, and by the transition of the car, consumer electronic capabilities and interaction with the user. The other one is the PC industry and mobile computes. That is about being connected 100% of the time. Users of the PC ecosystem want to be connected 100% of the time. Then we have the Internet of Things with a multitude of segments in networking. And maybe that's easier to explain when we show this, why we decided to go and announce the acquisition of NXP. because the automotive sector, the networking sector, the IoT sector are sectors that are being transformed and expanding to mobile, and that's why it's a perfect match for Qualcomm. So with that, we're going to start talking about those industry. And I'll start talking about the automotive. I like to explain this way because it's easier to understand because we all can relate to our personal behavior. Hopefully not, but when we started with cell phones, and I've been fortunate enough to start my career in 1G, but when we started with cell phones, we wanted to go behind the wheel, we wanted to talk on our phones. We're not supposed to do that, but then it was clearly a use case that you wanted to have with you when you're behind the wheel. So then, now we just take for granted, but all of the cars have a hands-free connection to Bluetooth, and you have that use case with you. But now what's happening, we have everybody look at the smartphone 100% of the time. And you're not supposed to, but people get behind the wheel when they look at their smartphone. I think the automotive industry understands that. Like, I think there's some markets that if you're going to be using Waze on your phone, why not have Waze in your car? If you're going to be looking in your phone for notifications, why not having notifications brought to you in a way that won't distract you from the wheel? So I think we see that as a transformation. And with that, I think we see a complete upgrade of the car electronics, the infotainment, the dashboard, the rear seat entertainment. We just had a discussion with Verizon about broadcasts. If you have the future of TV and video, it's 35% of the internet traffic in the United States is Netflix. So if you have the future of broadcast and video as a streaming data, a connected car and rear seat entertainment, that's the same. So you started to see that transformation. So the car, it's being transformed how it interacts with the user, and also being transformed by being connected with the cloud. When you connect the car with the cloud, different things start to happen. Business model for insurance company changes. Business model, not a business model, but interaction with law enforcement changes. Maybe we'll get your ticket printed to you on your dashboard, right? Please don't blame Qualcomm for that. And you're going to start to interact with the maker of the car as you actually have telemetry data, and you start downloading new software, security updates, and all of those things. And then you evolve to the next step, which assisted driving all the way to autonomous driving. We had made a press release in the past, and we talked about that, and I want to bring this back here. So, cars are going to be massive nodes for data transmission. And I want to give an example. So Qualcomm has sponsored the Mercedes team for Formula One. And one of the things we have done is we developed with them a system. Think about this as an early simulation of the use case I just described to you when I talked about the 5G new radio network architecture. We used Wi-Fi in the 5 gig band. You think of that like as a proxy of the sub-6 5G new radio. And then we use Wi-Fi in the millimeter wave 60 gigahertz band. And as the Mercedes car is going to the race, it is transmitting data back to the pit using this wireless system. And at that same range, we'll go to a much higher speed using 60 gigahertz millimeter wave, and then when it gets out of range, it goes to 5. In one race, the Mercedes car sent 1 terabyte of data, of telemetry data, back to the pit. So I don't expect the cars to be sending 1 terabyte, day one, but I think when you think about the potential of the car, and when you think about safety, when you think about live map, when you think about interaction with other things around it, I think the car will be, definitely a node on the wireless network with regards to data transmission. And I have this picture to show, the potential of this technology, which is, starting soon, which is cellular V2X, vehicle to everything. If you think about the big picture, all of us with smartphones and all of the things connected, so you can understand that a car will be able to basically connect with other cars, connect it to the infrastructure, connect to pedestrians, and I think when you think about the future automotive industry as we continue to improve assisted driving, autonomous driving, that's a big transformation and probably a great opportunity for all of us. So with that, I think we have a video of one of our guests from Ford. Please watch the video from Don, and I really appreciate Ford supporting us in our events.
At Ford, we're all about mobility, moving people and goods and making our customers' lives better. Increasingly, what that means today is smart vehicles in a smart environment. For us, smart vehicles is about the increasing computing capability on board the vehicles, as well as those vehicles being connected to the outside world. What we've recently announced is that by 2019, all of our vehicles in the US will be connected and embedded data connection inside the vehicle. That's where our partnership with Qualcomm really does come into fruition. We've been working with Qualcomm for a number of years, and part of the reason for that is to understand where's the industry headed, where are the trends, because we need to keep up with those trends. And as a result, we've really shifted our emphasis to cellular vehicle-to-infrastructure, vehicle-to-vehicle communication. For us, C-V2X is a holistic approach to how our vehicles will talk with each other and with the outside world, whether it's enabling vehicle-to-vehicle communication, vehicle-to-infrastructure communication, or even vehicle-to-pedestrian communication. Having that intelligence, having that connectivity enables our vehicles to travel more safely. What we've seen is that there's lower latency, which means that the vehicles will be able to communicate with each other in a more rapid fashion, conveying that safety information in a critical time period. We also think there'll be range benefits with cellular V2X, and we're working with Qualcomm on field trials to actually demonstrate that capability. It also paves the way towards a 5G future and autonomous driving. You get compatibility today, as well as the ability to take advantage of the technology path as it goes forward. And everything that we understand says that those devices in the future will have increasing capability, but they'll also be backward compatible with devices that we build today, for instance. That's why for us, a cellular V2X approach makes a lot of sense. And we look forward to working in the future with Qualcomm, advancing cellular V2X and road safety for our vehicles.
A big thank you to Ford, and I think if you see, this is I think just the beginning. I think it's interesting, I think in this show, that we're starting to see many other industries coming together here as mobile is starting to transform everything. So now we're going to move to a different part of the program, which is about the connected PC. And frankly, besides 5G, this is one of the most exciting projects we have in Qualcomm right now. By the way, Microsoft is in the house. Can I ask the Microsoft team to stand up? I think we've been working with Microsoft for a number of years to be able to enter and participate with them in the PC space. And Windows 10 on Snapdragon is coming. And the idea is to bring the always-on connectivity that you expect on your smartphone to the PC. So, for productivity, for creativity, for entertainment, and all the things you can do with Microsoft Windows. You can do connected 100% of the time, also connected to the cloud. And we can actually start that. You can understand that's a very interesting use case for you as an operator for gigabit LTE. When I think about the connected PC and some of the discussions we had, just for example, for broadcasting, if we have a connected PC with high-speed LTE modem, and you as an operator also have a TV or IPTV, service, and now you started to understand that the users also want to watch that in their phones, they watch that on the PC as well. And that's actually a great attached device that with having, as an operator, not having to worry about the cost, of a gross ad, you actually can expand your services, taking advantage of the connected PC. We can also change the user behavior, and that's what we want to do together with Microsoft and our partners. When you buy a phone, and you take the phone out of the box, you expect that to work everywhere. If that wasn't the case, you'll be buying an iPod Touch, right? So why isn't that different with the PC? Why isn't a PC connected everywhere? And I think that's what actually going to bring the full potential of Microsoft Windows. And one other thing that I wanted to take the opportunity to talk about it is actually we've been working with the carrier community and with the standards. So we have an eSIM solution together with Microsoft Windows, which is carrier friendly. So please take note of this. Make sure your network is GSMA RSP 2.0 compliant for eSIM. If you made the investment to be compliant with the GSMA eSIM specification, you'll be able to have that capability in those connected PCs, and that's going to be very important for the enterprise as well. So this is a great opportunity. We're very excited about it, and to talk to you more about it, I would like to invite to stage my personal friend, longtime business partner, Jerry Shen, the CEO of ASUS. Welcome, Jerry. Jerry, thank you very much for being here. Much appreciated.
Thank you for having this at this great event.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hello everyone. I'm so excited to be here. As you know, ASUS is passionate about technology and driven by innovation. We are always in search of incredible ideas and new user experiences. We are looking forward to bringing this new category of Windows on Snapdragon OS connected PC to consumers. More and more consumers expect to be mobile, to be productive, have entertainment, and connect anytime, anywhere. There is a growing demand for constant connectivity and true all-day battery life. While on the go, ASUS has a history of designing beautiful devices for smartphone and PC. So we are very well positioned to bring to life the benefits of LTE, always connected PC category, to always connected PC category. We look forward to seeing operators offer more flexible data plans in this category to deliver amazing user experiences, unbelievable battery life, and hyper-fast LTE connectivity to strengthen your customer loyalty as they bring more devices to connect to your networks. As computing has become a true mobile innovation, Qualcomm and ASUS has been committed to perfecting the consumer mobile experience. Therefore, a connected PC is the natural extension of our collaboration. We recently announced the ASUS Gen 4 Pro with Snapdragon 835 mobile platform. With this device, we start to see what 5G experience will look like. The ASUS Gen 4 Pro is the world's first smartphone with gigabit LTE and 802.11ad multi-gigabit Wi-Fi. Thank you. That marks a new era where consumers will have access to gigabit speed everywhere. While on the go, you can enjoy up to 1 gigabit per second with gigabit FT. When being indoors, you can speed up to 4.6 gigabit per second with AO2.11ad. And 11ad provides up to 5 times higher speed than 11ac for the same power consumption. With Qualcomm, we have solved the millimeter wave problem, which is the key for mobile devices. AO2.11ad multi-gigabit Wi-Fi provides significant increase in capacity at 30 gigahertz millimeter wave. Also relieves release congestion on 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz. ASUS and Qualcomm has a strong history of collaboration. Thank you, Cristiano, for your team support on Gen 4 and always connect PC. Thank you for being our friends and business partner. Let's keep moving forward together.
Thank you so much. Thank you, David. Thank you for your leadership. You know, this is a great opportunity, I think, to basically build on the prior statement. This is another example of solving the technology challenge of getting millimeter wave into a smartphone form factor. That's a product that is already launched using 802.11ad 60 gigahertz technology. So now we're going to move to the IoT. And IoT is actually one of the often misunderstood but largest growth opportunity we have in wireless. And today, we have about 1.5 billion devices that is already shipped using Qualcomm technologies. We have opportunities in a number of different industries as we start thinking about connecting everything, around us. And when you think about how we're building this IoT, we started by building a multi-mode platform that supports, Cat-M, narrowband IoT, and even eGPRS for backward compatibility. The reason we chose to start with a multi-mode is that we can help now start building the ecosystem and generate scale. And we're going to be moving very soon to a number of different products, at those different at narrowband IoT and Cat-M technologies. But I wanted to leave you with a challenge as well. This ecosystem is growing very fast, but there's still a lot of things we need to do together. It changes the business model for operators. It forces us to think about different, business model for subscription. Maybe the subscription is included into the device price. Maybe the subscription in the device price, comes later as a service. We need to think about software. We need to think about global SIM. We need to take the concept of eSIM and provisioning to the whole new level. But I believe that's one of the most exciting opportunities we have. And I think with that, just to give you an example of how mobile technology is creating a number of new devices and opportunities, I'd like to invite Greg from Fossil that will talk to us a little bit about that. Greg, please. Thank you very much.
So I hate to miss the opportunity to thank Cristiano, you and your team for unrelenting support over the last 2 years as we've taken on our wearables journey as a company. Many of you may not know who Fossil Group is. Let me tell you a little bit about us. So Fossil Group started in the mid-'80s with the Fossil brand, with the idea that the traditional watch business should have fashion-infused design. And our chairman and CEO today, Kostas, launched this business with his brother. Today he still runs the business and is my boss and is passionate about the future that we've now developed and are embarking on. We are one of the top watch companies in the world. We take a multi-brand approach with an unmatched portfolio of brands, from Fossil to Michael Kors, Emporio Armani, Kate Spade, Tory Burch, Armani Exchange, Marc Jacobs, Skagen, and many more, and more to come. And through that multi-brand approach, we created what are known for creating the fashion watch category. But 3 years ago, prior to the Apple Watch coming out, as a leadership team and a board, we came to the conclusion that wearables represented very likely the single largest opportunity and the single biggest threat that the company would ever face. And there were 3 beliefs around that. One, we knew wearables were going to happen. The technology was getting small enough that we could develop beautiful products. We knew that the use cases were there and they would only get better. And we knew big players like Apple and Samsung and others will come into the space. So overnight, we knew we were going to have big global competitors like Apple. Second thing we knew, though, is just like watches, when people wear these devices, design and great branding were going to matter. And so we had a role to play. Even though we're doing 30 million traditional watches, if we can figure out how to get technology into the watches, all we're really doing is adding technology-enabled features to products people already love. The third belief system that we had, though, was that we needed to integrate technology into every part of our company. We would acquire a company called Misfit with over 200 engineers, from full stack, cloud, software, application development, firmware engineering, hardware engineering. We integrated that company, bought them in 2015, integrated them into our business, and changed every part of the way we go to business, from how we design and develop product, to manufacturing assembly, to sales and marketing, to customer care and repairs. Everything is now technology-enabled and wearables, and built for wearables scale. That's a business system that we've built. It's not about product launches for us. Within 21 months since the acquisition, we've had an unprecedented launch in wearables. We have 14 brands across smartwatches, hybrid smartwatches, and trackers. Over 300 SKUs designed by the best fashion designers in the business today, in 50 countries and 20 languages. And yes, the irony is not lost on us that a company named Fossil is now one of the top 5 wearables companies in the world. To give you a sense for our take on wearables, I'll share 2 videos. The first, Fossil.
I got my first watch when I was 9. I campaigned for a pocket watch. It's my best friend Eric's. He's really my first best friend, so we've had some pretty great memories. My generation is really complex. We're really looking for something that allows us to multitask. The Fossil Q smartwatch allows me to keep that retro feel that I love by changing the face of it. Oh, I really like this one. It looks like a pocket watch.
And now again, with a design and fashion-first approach to wearables, here's Michael Kors. Sorry, back.
Hello?
Hey, how are you?
Okay, Google. How far is my Show me pictures of peony bouquets.
The watch that brings your life to life.
Thank you. So, after less than 24 months in the wearables business, we now have 15% of our business that is wearables. And we're just getting started. We believe, as we're dreaming big about what's possible, that in the next 3 to 4 years, half of our business will have connectivity. You're adding features to products people already love, and with a multi-brand approach, and we'll continue to add more brands, we are going to continue to drive this category. I think brands and design matter. So we're just getting started, we're scaling it significantly, and we're dreaming big now about products. So today, all of our products are Bluetooth tethered. The next generation products, we're going to start to get cellular and connected. I think there's a significant wave where we can bring branding and design to develop that category as well. And then our brand-first approach, we will take across the ecosystem of products that includes hearables and connected handbags and leathers and eyewear, all again with a multi-brand, fashion-driven approach. And everything will eventually be AI-enabled as well, so that the broader ecosystem of IoT as it develops, it can be fully immersed in this branded product ecosystem that's, again, designed and brand first that we're developing. So we look forward to that, and we look forward to Qualcomm's partnership in making that happen. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Bashir. So now we're going to move to the home. And another great opportunity that we have in wireless is the transformation of connectivity to home. And I want to spend time talking about this, in particular for the carrier community that is here in the audience. I think what we have seen over the years, and I think it's been to great partners, we have been building Wi-Fi and wireless connectivity for the home, for the consumer. So many of the carriers will, and I know you're not going to take this the wrong way, but many of the carriers will be very focused on bringing that broadband to the home. And then, in some cases, letting or asking the consumer to build its own network. It's going to build your own network inside. And I think as the industry evolves, and more important, I think the purpose of that broadband in the home was not to connect wired devices or just connect your desktop computer. As the purpose of the network in the home started to connect the mobile cellular devices, the smartphones, the tablets, and those are the very soon, the PCs, and those are the devices that you use for consumption of data. The consumer started to demand a higher quality Wi-Fi network that will provide coverage everywhere. Actually, I was talking to one of the operators in Europe, and we talked about it. We should be thinking about gigabit in every room, because that's, I think, what the transformation we're seeing with Wi-Fi mesh created, and actually create an opportunity not only for the consumer to build its network in the home, but also for the carrier. Because when you think about the carrier role, as you understand that you're providing connectivity for those devices, and in the home and outdoor, it's just the same device. And the device is starting to have all the different services, as well as the other industries around it. You can think of the Wi-Fi mesh in the home with self-organizing Wi-Fi actually as the biggest carrier, IoT, hub platform for not only connecting other devices, but also for analytics. And I think the transformation of connectivity in the home is a great opportunity for the Wi-Fi industry, the cellular industry, but also for the carrier community. And I think we see now the ability to basically bring that revolution and make it one other step into the transition for advanced cellular networks, with the LTE, in the LAA, 5 gig unlicensed band, and in the future, 5G radio millimeter wave. So to talk about Wi-Fi revolution in the home, I would like to invite Patrick Lowe, the CEO and Chairman of NetGear. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I actually don't need this because I don't really slide. Anyway, thank you so much for inviting me back to Hong Kong. This is a place I love because I grew up here. And I usually come back here once a year and met some old friends. No, I think I'm the last one, so I want to make it quick, but I want to also make a lighthearted line. My friend always told me, I know you guys are big in the US, you got 15% plus market share, but your routers is too expensive in Hong Kong. All right. Most of the routers sold in Hong Kong are not 150 Hong Kong dollars, and our cheapest is about $800. And they say, you gotta understand, we all pay so much for our apartments, both for rent or for buy. We don't have money to buy your routers anymore. That doesn't make any sense. But then I think about it, it makes sense. Because all the apartments in Hong Kong are so dingy, they really don't need our routers. But then something strange happened about 2 years ago when we introduced together with Qualcomm the new technology, the 1180, our flagship router, what we call the Nighthawk, 8072. And it is a breathtaking price point in Hong Kong for 4,000 Hong Kong dollars. But all of a sudden, it started to sell. And it's selling very well in Hong Kong. So this time around, we came back and I asked my friends, hey, you told me all along that our routers are too expensive, they won't sell in Hong Kong, but I'm proving you wrong. Because this $4,000 Hong Kong router is selling very well. What's happened? And then my friend said, yeah, the thing is, the biggest thing these days that we all like Korean soap operas. I said, what has that to do with my router? He said, because at times we actually want the soap opera so badly that we're watching it from our tablets or from our phones, even when we're taking a bath. And your R9000 router is the only one that could punch through all the concrete walls and get to the bathroom. That makes sense. That makes sense. Okay, now that brings me back to the next thing. Okay, now that's for Hong Kong. So we could blast through the concrete walls with one single router. However, as we look back into America or Europe or even in Japan, a lot of people are living in houses with front yard and backyard. And they also watch Netflix on their phones as well. And as a matter of fact, there are so many friends of mine in the US, they say, hey, we would really like to watch Netflix in the backyard. All right? So that resonates back into what Cristiano said, we need to have gigabit in every single corner of the house. And as a matter of fact, our engineers have been quietly working on this solution since 5 years ago. As a matter of fact, we demonstrated the concept of a mesh network to one of our operator partners in Asia about 3 years ago. The biggest problem that we have to face and solve is how we would transmit the base data to all the satellites, all the mesh points. So since we started off with Ethernet, we always think that a dedicated Ethernet backhaul into all the mesh points would be the most efficient way of doing it. However, we understand stringing Ethernet cable is not an option for many customers. So we have been concentrating on using a technology called power line. All right, because most of the houses have power outlets and they have electric wiring. So we use power lines to try to connect to all the mesh points. And in the meantime, our friend Qualcomm has been working on an alternative solution. Right? They're using wireless to actually Wi-Fi to connect the mesh points together. Now there is one catch on using wireless because you are also talking to the tablets and to the phones on wireless as well. So how can you do the same thing talking between the satellites and the base or among the clients? So you are basically fighting for the same bandwidth. So the two teams actually talked together towards the end of 2015 and tried to solve this mystery. And at that point in time, one thing came up. The light bulbs went on. Thanks to the introduction of the decoder chip, which is the most fabulous SoC, with dual band Wi-Fi all integrated together. And then at the same time, they also have another chip called Cascade, which provide a 4x4 11AC wireless. And the light bulbs went on. Our engineers said, why don't we combine the two chips together? So instead of a dual band, we create a 3-band network. And we use the 3rd band to be acting as an Ethernet backhaul. So we don't have to contend the bandwidth among the clients as well as among the satellites. Viala, that's great. Now there's only one catch. There's always a catch. There are only 2 official bands for Wi-Fi, the 2.4 gigahertz and the 5 gigahertz, right? We can't use the 1180 millimeter wave because they are not willing to lower the price of that chip for us. So we have to contend with the 5 gigahertz band. So our engineers actually came up with a great idea because there are so many channels in 5 gigahertz, we can always separate them. All right, using the high band for the backhaul and using the low band for the client communication. Now there's a lot of tricks to design that antenna in so small. If you look at the beautiful mesh networks that we created, they're not very big. You can cram all that antenna inside. There's a lot of technologies, a lot of design work, but we jointly figured it out. All right, so we launched Orbi. This is our mesh network in the middle of last year, and it is very successful. It's very well received in the world. We have tested it in many, many occasions, and even in 6,000 square foot home with really weird configurations, we can cover them all with just 2 satellites and 1 base. However, after the successful launch, we still have complaints. What complaints? There are a whole bunch of customers who bought the R9000, the $4,000 routers. They say, wait a minute, we just bought that, we kind of punch it through to the bathroom, but you tell me that if I want to get to the backyard, I have to replace it with this? I'm not going to do it. So joining again, Qualcomm and our engineering team take the next step, is to create the next mesh system. We call it the Nighthawk mesh, which could actually work with any routers that you have today. So you do not have to replace it. So our R9000 customers are so happy that they could retain the super good 1180 millimeter wave and at the same time be able to create a mesh that would really get the promise of gigabit to every single corner of the house. So this is tremendous because I do believe that there are a lot of our customers who actually had a router from the service providers, and they would not be able to replace it because that router has other functions such as video, such as voice. However, they do like to expand the Wi-Fi signal to the bathroom, to the front yard, to the backyard, and with the Nighthawk mesh system, that is the easiest and fastest way and the lowest cost way to get there. The bottom line is, today, on average, in American homes, there are 6 devices connected to the internet at any one time. And we believe that in 3 years' time, that number will go up to 15, and then in 10 years' time, that number will go about 60. So it is very important to get gigabit, or actually 10 gigabit to every single corner of the house. And I think joining together with Qualcomm and NetGear, we are definitely going to take that journey and go far beyond that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, that's a great move on pricing, Rahul. We didn't have a pricing review. Look, I think this is exciting. I want you to leave that whole discussion with provocative thought, right? If you think about the access point network topology, and you think about this great, technology, very successful, appreciated by customers of Wi-Fi mesh, from an operator that is going to be building fiber everywhere for 5G, new radio, millimeter wave base stations, maybe we should move also to, an extension of 5G new radio, millimeter wave mesh. So, but that's a topic for different discussion. So, I really think we have a great opportunity ahead of us. I'd like to thank you all, I think, for all that you are doing. And together, I do believe the best years of the wireless industry are still ahead of us. And we think the best days of Qualcomm still ahead of us. But before I forget, Greg, I'm using my diesel watch and I'm very happy with it. So, thank you all for coming to the show. We have a great lineup of speakers for the whole day and we really appreciate it. Thank you.